Today, we're taking a look back at an iconic shonen anime, Hunter x Hunter. Based on the currently running quintessential Yoshihiro Togashi manga, there's thrilling battles, wild monsters, and blood-chilling enemies, and the most best boys and girls per capita than any other show out there. Disclaimer, we'll be covering all of the events of the 2011 anime, so there are spoilers ahead, but as a licensed hunter, you knew that already, right? In 1500, a dictator creates Meteor City, a penal colony and the future home of the Phantom Troupe. 1925. At age 46, a martial artist named Isaac Netero meditates in the mountains, sensing that he has reached the limits of his strength. He decides that to push himself further, he must express gratitude for the gifts martial arts have brought him. To express this gratitude, he begins a ritual, wherein he performs 10,000 punches every day. In the beginning, this ritual lasts 18 hours. 4 years later, he can complete the ritual in less than an hour. Netero descends the mountain and challenges a nearby dojo master for ownership of the dojo. Awestruck by Netero's strength, the dojo master begs Netero to teach him. Thus, the Shingen Ryu School of Martial Arts and Nen is formed. Netero spends the next 20 years or so teaching at his school, creating the Shingen Ryu style of Kung Fu. He also becomes a hunter in that time. In 1955, he's elected the Hunter Association's 12th chairman. Around 1977, a man named Gyro creates the NGL, a country that rejects all modern technologies. His goal? To spread evil throughout the world. Around 1978, an 11-year-old boy named Jing Freaks leaves his home on Whale Island to see the world. A short time later, he passes the 267th Hunter exam. Around 10 years later in 1987, Jing and his friends use their skills to create a video game called Greed Island. The game is for hunters only, and it quickly develops a reputation for containing incredibly rare and powerful artifacts. If you beat the game, you can bring an artifact out of the game to keep. In 1988, Jing takes his newborn son, Gon, on an adventure. They make a pit stop at Greed Island, then head to Jing's hometown, Whale Island. Once there, Jing leaves baby Gon with his cousin Mito, entrusting her with his care. Around that time, a multi-billionaire named Batera begins buying up copies of Greed Island and enlisting hunters to beat the game. His beloved has fallen ill, but he's heard rumor of a legendary cure-all that can be found within the game. 1993. At the tender age of 6, a young boy named Killua challenges Heaven's Arena on his father's orders. Heaven's Arena is basically Hunter x Hunter's version of the Living Towers from Mortal Kombat, but luckily for Killua, he's no normal kid. He's a baby assassin and a member of the notorious Zoldyck family, which explains why so many of them act the way they do. Elsewhere, a boy named Kurapika, a member of the isolated Kurta clan, leaves his people in search of adventure. Shortly after Kurapika's departure, a group of bloodthirsty mercenaries known as the Phantom Troupe massacres his entire village, seeking to sell their coveted scarlet eyes on the black market. 1 year later, in 1994, Killua finishes his conquest of Heaven's Arena after reaching the 199th floor. Around this time, Killua's brother, Illumi Zoldyck, places a needle in Killua's head, forcing him to run from any conflict he can't obviously win. Jing's constant adventures make him a hard man to find, to say the least. Wanting to keep it that way, he tells his student and protege, Kite, that he must track and find Jing to graduate from his training. In 1995, Kite heads to Whale Island as part of this search. There, he encounters a young Gon and encourages him to take the Hunter exam when he's of age. In 1996, Killua's father, Silva Zoldyck, accepts a contract to kill a member of the Phantom Troupe. He also has to face off against their leader, Frollo Lucifer, as part of the fight. It's a hard-fought battle, but Silva manages to take out his target. A Nen user named Hisokamaro joins the Phantom Troupe soon after. A year or two after he meets Gon, Kite and his team are hired by the Kakin Empire to find and identify new species in their country. By 1998, Gon is eager to take the Hunter exam, but his aunt Mito isn't keen on letting him follow his father's dangerous path. She tells him he must capture the Master of the Swamp, a giant fish, to take the Hunter exam. By December, he's caught the mighty beast. The year is now 1999, so strap in, because this is where we cast off. In early January, Gon leaves Whale Island on a ferry bound for the Hunter exam. He meets Leorio Paladinite and Kurapika on the ferry, who are also heading for the exam. Each of them has a different reason for being a hunter. Gon wants to track down his dad, Kurapika wants to avenge his family by destroying the Phantom Troupe, and Leorio just wants some cash and a medical degree. Fair enough. After surviving the journey to the exam site, the trio arrives at the 287th Hunter exam on January 7th. Gon quickly befriends a silver-haired kid with a sick board Killua. They bond over being the youngest people taking the exam, while running an 80-kilometer marathon, the first part of the exam, which is why I will never become a hunter. Over the next 2 weeks, Gon and Killua's bond grows, and another examinee, Hisoka, becomes interested in these two super talented kids. Chairman Netero also notices the boys' potential. Meanwhile, Killua discovers that his older brother, Illumi, is also taking the exam, but his only real goal is to sabotage Killua because Illumi is a huge jerk. Illumi manipulates Killua into murdering another examinee before he can complete the exam, failing as a result. Convinced he isn't worthy of having friends or being a hunter, he heads home to nurse his wounds. Before the exam ends, Hisoka tells Kurapika he knows something about the elusive Phantom Troop. Hisoka promises to reveal his knowledge if Kurapika can meet him in York New City on September 1st. Do you remember? Copyright? I don't know. With Killua gone, the remaining examinees are rewarded for their tenacity. Gon, Leorio, Kurapika, Illumi, Hisoka, and a few others become licensed hunters. Gon may have reached his goal, but he lost a friend along the way, and that doesn't sit right with him. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio head to Killua's family home to see what's up. Killua lives in a giant, scary, booby-trapped mansion full of evil assassins, who also happen to be his family, and their assassin butlers, of course. The path to Killua is blocked by the testing gate, which has multiple super heavy doors, and to reach him, they train to open the first door, which weighs about 4 tons. About a month later in February, Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio make it through the testing gate. They have to face off against the Zoldyck family's butlers, but soon enough, the trio is reunited with Killua. Though they've just been reunited, the 4 buddies go their separate ways, promising to meet again in 6 months' time in York New City. Leorio enrolls in med school, Kurapika begins his quest to avenge his people, and Gon and Killua head to Heaven's Arena to train. Unbeknownst to these fresh hunters, and Killua, there's still an important skill they've yet to learn, which is known as Nen. Kurapika finds a Nen teacher in a man named Izunabi. Meanwhile, at Heaven's Arena, Gon and Killua encounter a kid named Zushi on the 50th floor. He wields a mysterious power. Still, Killua defeats him, but the boys are curious to learn about his special skills. They meet Zushi's master, a man named Wing, and ask him about Zushi's power. He isn't forthcoming, however, and the boys leave, dissatisfied. They continue fighting their way up Heaven's Arena, reaching the 200th floor before Hisoka blocks their path with Nen. Frustrated, Gon and Killua force Wing to teach them about the real Nen. He reveals that Nen is crucial for a hunter. It's even considered the secret second half of the hunter exam. There are 6 Nen types: enhancement, transmutation, conjuration, specialization, manipulation, and emission. After Wing's crash course in Nen, Gon and Killua breeze past Hisoka's barrier, officially entering the 200th floor. Over the next few months, the pair fight through the arena while mastering Nen. When Gon completes his training, he challenges Hisoka to a match. Gon loses, but Hisoka recognizes Gon's incredible potential as a rival and vows to fight him again one day. With Nen skills under their belts, Gon and Killua make a detour to Whale Island. While there, Mito presents the boys with an old memento of Jing's, a metal box. But it's no ordinary box. It's sealed by Nen. The boys open it and find a recording from Jing inside. Gon's absentee father challenges his son to find him. You know, typical dad stuff. The box also contains a memory card for Greed Island, the game Jing created. Gon and Killua are pumped to try it out, but like anyone who wants a new console, they discover that it's expensive, even for 2 kids with hunter licenses. So the boys make a plan to earn some extra dough. In late July, Kurapika concludes his training with Izunabi, creating a personal Nen technique based around chains. Each of his fingers has a different chain ability. He can heal himself, puncture the heart of an opponent to seal Nen, and even guide himself to things he's trying to find. Even better, his abilities amplify when his eyes turn scarlet. To properly focus these powers, he has a conviction that they only be used for finding and destroying the Phantom Troop. It's August, just 1 month before the crew meets up in York New City. Kurapika is hired as a bodyguard for the daughter of Mafia Don, Light Nostrad. He joins a group of assassins that include Basho, Baze, and best girl, Melody. The bodyguards follow the Don's daughter, Neon Nostrad, and head to the underground auction in York New. This auction is swarming with underworld types, as well as rare and illegal items. Neon is a Nen user and a collector of human flesh. Including the scarlet eyes of the Kurta clan, which also happen to be on sale. She's also got a special Nen ability that allows her to predict the future. This ability has led to her father's success in the Mafia and puts a giant target on her back. She doesn't care though. She just wants to go shopping. The auction draws out a lot of unsavory characters out of the woodwork, including the Spiders, also known as the Phantom Troupe. As professional thieves and assassins, the underground auction is an opportunity to make off with a fortune. As the September 1st meeting date rolls around, Gon, Killua, and Leorio descend on York New City. Still coming up a bit short for Greed Island, the trio decides to earn money through arm wrestling. As a high-profile auction with only the top mafiosos in attendance begins, the Phantom Troupe massacres the guests. Even the Mafia's strongest enforcers, the Shadow Beasts, are helpless against the Spiders, but at least they give us a few disturbing and creepy battles, so there's that. Rest in peace, Shadow Beasts. The Leech one was gross, though. Kurapika, acting as Neon's bodyguard, is also on the scene. He uses his Nen chains to capture Uvogin, but the Phantom Troupe frees him. The next day, the news of the Phantom Troupe's attack is everywhere. Still struggling to make enough scratch for Greed Island, Gon, Killua, and Leorio seemingly strike gold when they're enlisted to capture the Phantom Troupe for the Mafia. If they're successful, they'll be richly rewarded. Kurapika is still doing his bodyguard thing. He faces off against Uvogin again, this time defeating him with yet another special Nen ability, Judgment Chain, to pierce his heart. Killua's neckbeard older brother, Miluki, finally emerges from his man cave in the family mansion for the first time in 7 years to try and get his hands on Greed Island. He travels to York New City. Meanwhile, Killua and Gon spot 2 members of the Phantom Troupe, Machi and Nobunaga. The boys tail them, only to get captured and brought back to their lair. The Phantom Troupe executes the second part of their attack on the auction. Murders? Check. Thievery? All in good time. The Spiders use a copy ability to create forgeries of the items up for auction and steal the originals. With the heist complete, the troupe leaves behind a few fake corpses of their members to make it look like the troupe was defeated. Back at the hideout, Gon and Killua make their escape. More heavy hitters show up in York New when Mafia leaders hire Silva and Zeno Zoldyck, Killua's grandfather, to assist in capturing the troupe. Chrollo and the 2 Zoldicks clash. However, Chrollo approaches Illumi Zoldyck and hires him to slay the Mafia leaders. Illumi succeeds in killing the Dons before Zeno and Silva can kill Chrollo, so with their client dead, the Zoldicks let Chrollo go on his merry way. In the aftermath of the latest attack, the Mafia cancels their bounty on the Phantom Troupe, believing them to be defeated. But when Kurapika meets with Hisoka, he learns that the corpses are fake. Kurapika, Gon, Leorio, and Killua reunite and make a plan to take down the Phantom Troupe. Gon and Killua are captured by the troupe, once again. This time, the Phantom Troupe's resident mentalist, Pakunoda, reads their minds and uncovers information about the chain user that killed Uvogin. Before they can take him out, Kurapika captures Chrollo using those special chains. The 2 groups agree to exchange hostages at midnight. At the exchange, Kurapika uses his Judgment Chain on Chrollo, cursing him to die if he speaks to any Phantom Troupe members or uses his Nen. Hisoka leaves the Phantom Troupe. He's no longer interested in fighting the Spider Boss if he's Nenless. Chrollo heads east in search of a Nen exorcist who could remove Kurapika's Judgment Chain. Just 6 days after the underground auction kicks off, the public auction begins. The boys resume their hunt for Greed Island, learning they can enter the game without paying a dime by joining the Greed Island Task Force, run by pro hunter Tesugera and Batera. Upon being inspected by Tesugera, however, Killua and Gon are deemed too weak. Gon and Killua begin practicing their Nen's Ren form to retake the exam, Killua also experimenting with electricity. They return a few days later to take Tesugera's exam and pass. The billionaire, Batera, wins all 7 Greed Island copies that were up for auction. Disappointed by his loss, Miluki Zoldyck returns home, but not before eating a whole ton of food. The crew splits up again as the auction begins to draw to a close. Kurapika and his fellow Nostrad bodyguards leave York New City, and Leorio returns to medical school. Gon and Killua go to Batera's castle, where they finally enter Greed Island. Back in York New, the Phantom Troupe believes they can find a Nen exorcist in Greed Island, prompting Finks and Phaeton to steal a copy. The 2 spiders enter the game. Greed Island is basically Yu-Gi-Oh! Greed Island is basically a card capturing game. Players win by collecting all of the special items in the game and storing them in their card binder. But it's no normal game. Only Nen users can play it, and players are immediately transported into the game when they boot it up. On top of that, players can only leave the game using a special card, so it's easy to get trapped inside. Oh, and if you die in the game, you die in real life. Undeterred, the boys head to Antokiba, Greed Island City of Prizes. While there, they're invited to join an alliance. During the gathering, a player is killed by an in-game terrorist known as the Bomber. The Alliance wants to unite and complete the game before the Bomber takes them out, but Gon and Killua aren't convinced, so they go off on their own. It's September 15th, just 2 weeks after the boys met up in York New, and they're already in a deadly video game. The life of a professional hunter is never dull. The spiders get their bearings in-game while Shalnark realizes the game is taking place in the real world. They'd assumed it was a Sword Art Online situation until then. The spiders continue their search for an exorcist while Killua and Gon just wanna have fun. The pair meets another pro hunter, the forever young Biscuit Kruger, aka Bisky. I know, I said Melody is best girl, and she totally is, but so is Bisky. There can be two. Interested in learning more about the card system, Killua, Gon, and Bisky head off to Masadora, the city of magic. As they continue through the Badlands, the three are stalked by a member of the Bomber Squad, Binolt. He attacks but is promptly defeated by Bisky, who holds him captive while Gon and Killua train by fighting him. As it turns out, Bisky is a formidable Nen master and Wing's original teacher. The boys enjoy a shonen-style training montage, eventually defeating Binolt. Gon, Killua, and Bisky head to Masadora. They make it to Masadora in early October, completing level 1 of Bisky's training. By December, Gon and Killua have learned Ken and its more advanced form, Ryu, and begin focusing on their specific Nen types, enhancement and transmutation, respectively. Elsewhere, the members of the Phantom Troop who aren't in the game travel to Greed Island, but are kicked out as soon as they reach the shores by Razor, a formidable Nen user in short shorts who guards Greed Island's borders from IRL intruders. Several weeks later, a player named Genthru reveals himself to be one of 3 bombers. He activates his Nen ability Countdown on bombs he discreetly placed on everyone in the Alliance over the last few years. Killua uses a special card that allows him to leave the game to take the 288th Hunter exam so he can finally get his license. He beats it in a day. Back in the game, Gon and Bisky learn that Genthru is the bomber. They find out from a guy named Abengane, a former member of the Player Alliance. Abengane is a rare Nen exorcist. He's able to remove Genthru's invisible bomb using his special ability. But before he can remove the other players' bombs, the bombers detonate them, wiping out the remaining members of the Player Alliance. During this time, Gon sees a familiar name on the list of players in the game, Chrollo Lucifer. 2000! It's the new millennium, and apparently Greed Island is immune to Y2K, thankfully. 2 weeks after leaving, Killua returns to Greed Island, this time with some special weaponized yo-yos, courtesy of his bro, Miluki. When Killua meets up with Gon and Bisky, Gon explains the whole Chrollo Lucifer situation to Killua. With Killua back in the game, the boys continue their quest to capture all the Clow cards. Around February, Batara's lover succumbs to illness, but Bisky and the boys keep on trucking. Gon, Killua, and Bisky are invited to join a new alliance that wants to stop the mobbers from completing Greed Island. Their first goal is to obtain card 002, Plot of Beach, which Genthru and the bombers have yet to acquire. Once they obtain the card, the other members of the alliance will gather all available copies, monopolizing the card and preventing the bombers from completing their card binders. It turns out that Razor, Greed Island's bouncer, stands between the boys and the Plot of Beach card. Razor makes quick work of the alliance, and after suffering a brutal defeat, the alliance loses faith in their plan to defeat the bombers and disbands. Still wishing to defeat Razor, Gon and Killua start looking for new players to take on the challenge with them. They're joined by Goreinu, who was in their original alliance, but they still need to fill another slot on their roster before they can take on Razor again. They search out the Chrollo Lucifer contact they've seen in the game. Turns out Chrollo Lucifer is just an alias being used by Hisoka. He wanted the other spiders to find him in the game, so he used Chrollo's name as bait. Hisoka agrees to take on Razor. The group invites him to locate Tesugera and his group to join them too. After the toughest game of volleyball in history, Gon's team emerges victorious, but Killua's hands are destroyed in the process. With Plot of Beach secured, Tesugera's group feels confident enough to attack the bombers. In the meantime, Killua and Gon continue their training, hoping to take out the bombers when they're done. As March begins, Tesugera gives up on attacking the bombers and flees the game. Upon leaving, they find a heartbroken Batara. Following his lover's death, the billionaire has given up on the Greed Island task force. That means there's no reward for securing the artifact he seeks, so Tesugera's team quits playing the Greed Island game for good. Gon, Killua, and Bisky face the bombers in one-on-one combat. Killua debuts his brand new electric yo-yos and kicks some ass. They successfully defeat the bombers, collect all the remaining cards, and win the game, thus ending what sometimes feels like the longest arc in this entire series. As a reward for their victory, Bisky, Killua, and Gon are each allowed to bring a card back to the real world. Gon deduces that a player they encountered under the pseudonym Neeg could in fact be his dad, Jing. Gon takes a card from the game that would allow him to warp to that player's location in the real world. Back in the real world, Gon activates the card, expecting to meet Jing, but instead it brings him to Jing's protege, Kite. After a brief conversation, Killua and Gon join Kite's research team. They're tasked with finding new species in the foreign country of Kakin. The team finishes their research in April, and Kite is called to examine something strange, a leg belonging to the Chimera Ant Queen. Kite sees the writing on the wall, and it's terrifying. Chimera ants, like xenomorphs, consume other species and assimilate their DNA. Each subsequent generation of chimera ants becomes more powerful and evolved as a result of this genetic blending. By May, chimera ants begin an aggressive culling of humans in the NGL, planning to use the corpses to feed their queen, thus creating more ants. Because NGL is so isolated from the rest of the world, news of the slaughter has yet to reach the outside. By the end of the month, the Hunter Association gets involved. Several groups of hunters enter the NGL to investigate, and they're promptly wiped out by the chimera ants. They also play a crucial role in escalating the chimera ant crisis. These hunters are the first Nen users the chimera ants consume. They discover that Nen users' corpses are especially nourishing and tasty, and Colt, the chimera ant queen's most devoted servant, is among the first of them to unlock Nen powers. With these new Nen-wielding super beasts, the situation gets real bleak real quick. And because things can only get worse from there, the chimera ant queen begins gestating a chimera ant king. Gon, Killua, Kite, and the rest of their team enter the NGL. Gon and Killua are able to deal some damage to the ants, but they rely on Kite, who is truly one of the baddest dudes they've ever met. Until the first Royal Guard chimera ant, Neferpitou, is born. Pitou is overwhelmingly strong, even stronger than Kite, so Pitou almost instantly slays him. But not before Kite tells Killua and Gon to get the heck out of Dodge. At the end of May, Gon and Killua leave NGL, meeting Netero and pro-hunters Morel and Nav on the country's border. Determined to save Kite, Gon and Killua ask to be allowed to take part in the Hunter's mission. The group heads to Dali City, where the boys have to face off against Morel's apprentices to earn their spot on the infiltration squad. It's there that they meet Palm, yet another best girl, and Nav's apprentice. She quickly becomes infatuated with Gon, who implies that despite being a kid, he's had plenty of experience romancing women. Bisky also shows up in Doli City to continue Gon and Killua's training. Meanwhile, Netero, Morel, and Nav locate the Chimera ant nest. Around this time, the second Royal Guard member, Shayapuf, is born. When June rolls around, Gon and Killua head off to challenge Knuckle. Alas, they're pretty outmatched, but being an understanding guy, Knuckle says they can challenge him every day until the deadline to join the other pro-hunters. It's around this time that Mentutu Yupi, also known as Yupi, the third and final member of the Royal Guard, is born. On June 29th, with the deadline looming, Gon and Killua face Knuckle and Shoot to see who will join the extermination team. Overwhelmed by Shoot's abilities and influenced by the needle that Illumi implanted in his brain, Killua runs away, forfeiting the match. Gon puts up a great fight, but Knuckles' Nen ability, Hakaware, renders him powerless, so he loses his fight. Gon also loses his ability to use Nen for 30 days, but Killua promises to protect Gon until his Nen returns. Still feeling outgunned, Netero goes to enlist Xeno Zoldic's assistance in defeating the Chimera Ants. As the battle to save humanity reaches a fever pitch, King of the Chimera Ants, Meruem, is born. He kills the queen shortly after his birth, but posthumously, the queen delivers one more small baby chimera ant, a reincarnation of Kite. Meruem and his royal guard head to NGL's palace. They quickly take it over and use the NGL's dictator as a puppet to hide their machinations. The other chimera ant squadron leaders are left with little to do now that they no longer have to protect and harvest food for their queen. Most of them spread throughout the world to follow their own paths. Only a handful stay by the king's side. Elsewhere, Knuckle and Shoot are forced to battle Kite's corpse, which is being manipulated like a puppet thanks to Pitou's Nen ability. Outside the borders of NGL, Palm and Gon go on a date. It seems pretty good, all things considered. As July begins, the extermination team returns with Kite's corpse. It mindlessly attacks Gon and is unresponsive to the normally effective emotional speech special attack that all shonen protagonists rely on when facing old friends. Gon is heartbroken to see Kite in this state. He's also enraged. We start to see the dark side of our main good boy. At the end of the month, the Chimera Ants begin gathering the remaining human population of NGL into one place, so they can slaughter them. They call this process the selection. On July 28th, Gon's Nen returns! The selection is 10 days away, and Chimera Ants begin attacking smaller villages around East Gorto to get a head start on their massacre. As the Chimera Ants approach their endgame, all of the major players face off against ants. Killua fights Leol, and then takes out the cutest of best boys, the octopus infiltrator ant, Ikalgo. Killua's conviction inspires Ikalgo, who dons a beanie, and then joins the hunter's cause. Killua then fights a couple of dart-throwing ants who are surprisingly tough to beat. Incapacitated from his last fight, Killua is rescued by Ikalgo, cementing their friendship. The chameleon chimera ant, Meleoron, introduces himself to Gon in hopes of befriending the boy and helping him take down the king. Some of the ants are beginning to recover memories of their former lives as humans, causing them to stray from the chimera ant cause. Meleoron is a powerful ally thanks to his Nen ability, God's Accomplice, which allows him and anything he's touching to disappear completely from existence for as long as he can hold his breath. In the castle, Meruem begins contemplating his existence in a very Saitama-like way. If he was born the most powerful being in the universe, what's the point of life? He begins honing his intelligence by facing off against masters of different human games. He defeats the national Shogi champion, then the national Go champion. It's too easy. He's left unsatisfied and hungry for a worthy opponent. In August, his royal guard brings him the national Gungi champion, and yes, that's right, the most purest of best girls, Komugi. Komugi is extremely skilled in Gungi, yet extremely humble. They play, and Meruem loses. He loses again and again. And if you ever thought tabletop gaming wasn't worthy of an extended, multi-episode shonen-style battle, Komugi and Meruem are here to tell you you're wrong. Meruem worked the other game masters to exhaustion, so it's surprising when he gives Komugi a break to rest and recover so they can play more the next day. Meruem's royal guard Poof takes note of this concerning behavior. Meruem offers his arm if he loses, but he tears it off before they even play, in penance for accidentally shading Komugi. Pito uses their Nen ability, Dr. Blythe, to patch the king up. And if the rest of us had access to Dr. Blythe, maybe the healthcare system would be a little better. And also we could create evil corpse puppets, but that's beside the point. Back with the hunters, Gon introduces Meleoron to the rest of his team. Morel and Nav begin scouting the capital. Morel fends off multiple chimera ant attacks. Nav infiltrates the palace to set up markers for his Nen ability, which allows him to create portals on flat surfaces. These portals are perfect for an infiltration like this. However, Nav is so traumatized after encountering Pito's bloodthirsty aura that he is forced to retreat and spend the rest of the mission sidelined. Netero and Zeno initiate an attack on the palace with Zeno's patented Nen Dragon Dive technique, which rains hundreds of dragons over the Chimera Ant HQ. This attack damages the castle but hits one unintended target, Komugi. Meruem rushes to her aid, demanding that Pito use their ability to save Komugi. Touched by the ant's compassion, Zeno loses his desire to defeat the king, leaving Netero to finish the job. Netero convinces the king that their battle should take place at a military testing site. He agrees. Elsewhere in the castle, Shoot and Knuckle corner Youpi. The battle is strenuous. Fighting hard and annoyed by Knuckles' Hakaware, Youpi pushes himself to the next level, transforming into a winged abomination with the ability to explode. His first blast creates a massive crater, nearly killing Knuckle and Shoot. In the throne room, Morel and Poof are locked in combat. Morel has trapped the ant using his smoky jail technique, enveloping the entire area in smoke. The battle comes to a halt when Poof transforms into hundreds of miniature-sized Poofs that are small enough to escape from Morel's smoky jail. Gon and Killua head to Pito's location with revenge on the mind. Well, Gon wants revenge, but Killua just wants to make sure Gon doesn't get himself killed. Gon tries to attack Pito upon arriving, but Pito begs Gon to wait at least a few hours so they can finish healing Komugi's wounds. Good boy Gon agrees to wait. He also adds a stipulation that when the waiting is over, Pito has to heal Kite too. Meleoron arrives and asks for some backup for Knuckle and Shoot, who still have their hands full with Youpi. Killua leaves with the chameleon. He attacks the explosive ant with a full showcase of his high-velocity Nen technique, Godspeed. Youpi is unable to counter his moves. Back in the throne room, Morel realizes that Poof has escaped, so he dispels Smoky Jail. Poof attacks and steals Morel's signature giant pipe, but not before Morel summons 89 smoke clones, using a move called Deep Purple. As Killua heads back to Gon's side, Morel joins Knuckles' battle against Youpi using his smoke clones, but Youpi just transforms once again. With Deep Purple's last smoke human defeated, Morel heavily injured, and Youpi powered up, Knuckle makes a last-ditch effort to save his pals, but Youpi has bigger fish to fry. The king is in danger, so he abandons the fight to meet up with Poof. Netero and Meruem kick off their battle with some philosophical conversations about the nature of humanity. Hunter x Hunter is one big morality tale after all. Although Netero is prepared to kill Meruem, the Ant King refuses to fight back. He'd rather talk it out like an adult, but because the whole point of this is making us question whether humans are inherently violent or inherently peaceful, Netero has no choice but to provoke the king, even though his heart really isn't in it. Netero tells the king that he knows his name. It's a question that's been plaguing him ever since he met Komugi, and because he doesn't have this handy timeline video, he doesn't know his name yet. The battle begins. While the king's physical power is unparalleled, even with Netero's superior experience, the Hunter Chairman is able to overtake him, using the speed of his Nen ability, 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva. Despite Netero's speed, the king begins dismembering the chairman in the hopes of stopping the battle. But Netero refuses to lose. The chairman makes a short speech revealing the ant's name, Meruem. With no other way out, the chairman decides to make the ultimate sacrifice, activating a small nuke known as the Poor Man's Rose, which is hidden within his body. While Netero dies in the explosion, Meruem survives thanks to his royal guards. Yuppie and Puff offer their cells to the king, regenerating the king's body in a sequence that exists so that we can see Puff and Yuppie in their chibi forms. The king is whole again, but he has amnesia. Specifically, he can't remember his friendship with Komugi, but he's got a nagging feeling that there's something he's forgetting. But Puff isn't gonna be the one to remind him. He sees Komugi as a liability. Back at the castle, Pito has healed Komugi to the best of their abilities. Now it's time for Pito to heal their second patient, Kite. Pito leaves Komugi behind as a hostage to ensure their good behavior. Puff tricks Pito into thinking they've recaptured Komugi, meaning the deal is off and they can attack Gon at will. Pito admits to Gon that they've already killed Kite. In an instant, Gon decides he's going to make his own ultimate sacrifice, summoning all the power and life energy he'll ever have to force his body to transform. Our little guy is all grown up in the creepiest way possible. With his new power in hand, Gon near instantly kills Pito. Killua arrives in time to witness Gon's tragic sacrifice. He's heartbroken for his best friend. Nearby, it turns out that Netero's death wasn't in vain. The bomb may not have killed Meruem instantly, but it's a chemical weapon containing a deadly poison. It's only a matter of time until Meruem succumbs. Yuppie and Puff die from exposure to the poison before the king does. Knowing that the end is nigh, he remembers what he's forgotten, Komugi. He rushes to her side to spend his last hours with her. He warns her that she'll be exposed to the poison too if they play one last game. But Komugi doesn't care. She just wants to be with this person who's been kind to her. The two play one last game, then peacefully pass on, hand in hand. Who are the real monsters here? Humans or chimera ants? I'll leave it for you to decide, but it's humans. With the chimera ant conflict over, most of the survivors go in search of the families they once had as humans. Former squadron leader, Colt, takes charge of the queen's last baby, naming her Reina. The team of hunters returns back home, including Palm, who was assimilated as a chimera ant. Nav will never be the same and Gon is in bad shape. Killua is desperate to save his friend, so he makes a rash decision and returns to his family's mansion to ask for the help of his sibling, Aruka. Aruka is kept under lock and key because they have a disturbing ability. They can grant any wish, but it's a monkey's paw situation. No matter how big or small the wish is, there are consequences to suffer when it's granted, and some of them are really bad. Although Killua is able to escape with his sibling, what will it cost to save his friend from death? Killua is Aluka's favorite family member because he's the only one who treats them like a human being, so it's possible he'll get off easy. Hearing about Killua's plan, Illumi hires Hisoka to stop his brother, worrying that using Aluka will result in the demise of Gon, Killua, Hisoka, and the entire Zoldyck family. While Killua works to save Gon, the Hunter Association must elect a new chairman. Jing meets with Beans, the association's cute secretary, to plan an election, which is sometimes tedious, not unlike actual politics, so I'm gonna summarize this part with broad strokes. There are a lot of candidates, all with certain qualities that could make them good leaders. But one of them, Periston, Netero's number 2, is a slimy slimeball whose motives are unclear, except for his thirst for power. But he's charming, so he's able to sway lots of voters to his side in spite of his questionably proto-fascist leanings. After 3 failed votes, and with our main crew of dudes occupied with Gon's recovery, Leorio interrupts a debate to give Jing a piece of his mind. Jing's son is near death, so why is he messing around with this election BS? He's got more important things to do. When Jing swerves Leorio's demands, Leorio punches him right in the pie hole, and that's a deeply satisfying moment because, Jesus Christ, Jing, where'd you learn to be a dad? Anime? Leorio's rewarded with a groundswell of public support. After the next round of voting, he's in 3rd place. Meanwhile, Killua is headed to the hospital with Aluka in tow, protected by some of the Zoldyck family bodyguards. It doesn't take long for Illumi and Hisoka to begin attacking Killua and his crew. When Illumi confronts him again, he's forced to reveal some interesting info about Aluka's power. If you ask Aluka to heal, there's no negative effect after the wish. This is enough to convince Illumi to abandon the chase. Meanwhile, the 8th election vote has taken place and it's void too, but now it's down to Periston versus Leorio for the final round. Back at the hospital, Killua asks Aluka to heal Gon. Aluka's incredible powers work, and Gon is alive and well. And hey, Jing is there, and he gets a public shaming from all of his Hunter Association colleagues, which he deserves. Jing gives Gon some okay advice before leaving Gon once again to visit Kite. Can't catch a break. With Gon awake, he and Leorio cast tie-breaking votes for Periston. Periston quickly cedes his victory to Cheadle, making her the 14th chairman and leaving us all with a lot of questions about his election meddling. Gon meets up with Reyna, who now knows they are Kite, and they've retained all of Kite's memories. Gon then goes to meet Jing on top of the World Tree. But hey, found families are way better than absentee dads, and Gon has plenty of people looking out for him. After nearly 150 episodes together, Gon and Killua part ways. Killua wants to travel the world with his Alaka. Gon wants to spend more time with Jing. Gon meets his father, and the two are finally able to bond, sharing tales of their adventures. We then get a precious little epilogue montage. Gon is traveling with Kite and friends, Kurapika has successfully collected multiple Scarlet Eyes, Leorio is in school, Killua is traveling, Komugi and Meruem have passed away while embracing. That was a perfect ending to a perfect show. But there's more, and it's even wilder than what we've seen so far. Nen Beasts, the Dark Continent, a cruise ship that looks like an adorable whale. If you can't wait for the anime to someday, maybe someday, be adapted, then check out the manga, which is currently on hiatus. I'm Y Chang, you've been watching Get in the Robot, your anime explainer, and if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking around. Consider subscribing.